Welcome to The Explainer. So, for decades, Dubai has built this incredible image for itself as a global sanctuary, a totally stable, secure hub for business and for capital. Today, we're going to dig into what happens when that image, that core promise, gets put to the ultimate test.
You see, for years, Dubai's main sales pitch wasn't really about the shiny skyscrapers or living tax-free. It was about something way more valuable: reliability. It was this unspoken deal, this promise that all the chaos and conflict you might see in the region, well, it just stopped at Dubai's borders. And that wasn't just some marketing slogan. It was the absolute bedrock of their entire economic model.
Okay, so let's actually put a name on this thing. What you're seeing here is what a lot of experts call the Dubai model. But look, it's not just about being safe. It's this whole ecosystem they've deliberately engineered. A global hub for money, for smart people, and for big business. All of it built on this one core idea, that it is completely insulated from the region's geopolitical storms.
And let me tell you, this did not happen by accident. Oh no, this was a decades-long project. Just look at the timeline. It really kicks off in '85 with Emirates Airline, literally connecting Dubai to the rest of the planet. Then in '99, you get the Burj Al Arab, this huge symbol of their ambition. Then a really crucial moment. In the early 2000s, they changed the laws so foreigners can actually own property. And then in 2004, they set up the Dubai International Financial Center. Every single step was a calculated move to build brand Dubai. Now, you might be wondering, how did they build such a stable foundation? Well, this slide shows you the secret sauce. While a lot of its neighbors were still totally dependent on oil, the UAE went all in on diversification. And today, as you can see, a whopping 75% of the entire country's economy comes from non-oil sectors. We're talking trade, finance, tourism, you name it. This was absolutely essential to protecting themselves from crazy oil price swings and projecting that image of modern stability. And backing all of this up is an amount of financial firepower that is, well, it's almost hard to believe. The UAE's state-owned investors, and that includes their massive sovereign wealth funds, they manage nearly $3 trillion in assets. That makes the UAE the fourth largest state investor on the entire planet. I mean, that's a financial fortress by any definition. So you take that feeling of safety, and you combine it with that immense financial backing, and it's acted like a giant magnet. Just last year alone, a record 9,800 millionaires decided to move to the UAE. That's more than any other country in the world. From people getting away from conflict to others just fleeing shaky economies, capital and talent basically voted with their feet, and they poured into Dubai. So for 40 years, this model, it just worked perfectly. The promise held. But what happens when the unthinkable actually occurs? What happens when the one thing you absolutely guarantee, total safety, is suddenly, violently broken? The scenario we're exploring here, and it's one based on risks that experts have been pointing to for a long time, is a retaliatory attack, say from a regional power, an attack that would strike right at the heart of Dubai's identity. Because, it wouldn't just be an attack on buildings and ports, it would be an attack on the idea of Dubai itself. The physical reality in this scenario would be stark. The world's busiest international airport damaged. Jebel Ali, the region's most important port, on fire, and even the iconic Burj Al Arab, the very symbol of modern Dubai, hit by fragments. Just like that, the safe haven had been breached. And as an expert like Jim Crane points out, the real danger here wasn't just the physical damage, it was the damage to the brand. All of a sudden, Dubai's entire status as a safe haven would be thrown into question. And you have to remember, international money is skittish. It runs away from uncertainty. So, and this is really the crucial point. The most significant damage wasn't to the buildings, it was to belief. The psychological foundation of the whole city, that core promise that this place was different, that it was somehow untouchable, that had been hit. And this is where it gets really interesting because it creates this huge conflict between perception and reality. The perception, right, is that the safe haven is broken, the model's in trouble, but the reality, well, it's a lot more complicated because underneath that psychological shock, there's a foundation of incredible financial resilience. All right, let's start with the hard numbers. The UAE's foreign exchange reserves recently hit an all-time high of nearly $278 billion. Think of that as a massive financial cushion, a national rainy day fund designed to absorb exactly this kind of shock. And that's just one piece of the puzzle. This slide from S&P Global Ratings brilliantly illustrates the deeper structure of that resilience. It's not just about the reserves we just talked about. It's also having very low government debt,
consistently spending less than they make, strong growth outside of oil, stable state investments, and a really healthy banking sector. It's like a multi-layered defense system for the economy.
This chart really puts all of that strength into perspective. Just look at the difference here. The government's net assets are a staggering 184% of the country's entire GDP. Now compare that to its debt, which is a totally manageable 27%. To put it simply, what the country owns just completely dwarfs what it owes, giving it incredible flexibility in a crisis.
And a huge chunk of those assets comes from these powerhouses you see here, the UAE's sovereign wealth funds. We're talking about absolute giants like the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, with over $1 trillion under management, not to mention all the others. These funds have a globally diversified portfolio that acts as yet another layer of financial defense.
So even though the psychological shock is real, a lot of experts believe a mass exodus of capital isn't a sure thing at all. As this quote suggests, big institutional money, the really big money, doesn't panic easily. It would take a much longer, much more severe escalation for a true structural shift away from the UAE to happen.
Which leaves us right here with this core conflict. On the one hand, you have a deep psychological scar. Fear and doubt, things that were once unthinkable, are now part of the conversation. But on the other hand, you've got this financial fortress, an underlying economic structure that is exceptionally strong and was built to withstand exactly this kind of pressure.
And all of this leads us to the final, and I think most critical question. The money is there, the fundamentals are solid, but confidence is a fragile thing. Can a safe haven, once it has been proven to be vulnerable, ever truly be seen as completely safe again? Well, that's the test that brand Dubai now faces.